kicking off the NFL Grit Week and with college football right around the corner too. I'm your host, Ryan Greiser. Got my co-host, Fran Walsh here. We're excited to have Josh Woodrum with us here today. A little bit things about Josh before we bring him on, introduce him here. First and foremost, he was a Liberty Flames quarterback, proud alumni like myself, and coming out of Liberty had an opportunity to jump to the NFL, starting with the Giants in 2016, then moving to the Colts, the Bears, the Bills, the Ravens, the Browns, the Ravens, jumping over to the AAF with the Salt Lake Stallions, and then finishing up with the Redskins, all from 2016 to 2019. So I'm really excited to kind of talk through those transitions with you, Josh, and then your transition off the field here, in 2020 and into the real world here with the rest of us after getting out of the NFL circus. So welcome, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. It'll be fun. I haven't talked to you in a little bit, so we'll get to catch up a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of go in, what are you up to today, man? I know, the transition from the league, the AAF into the real world is a tough one for a lot of players. So just kind of give us an update on what you got going on now, what you're doing, and what you're up to.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you kind of, everyone thinks they can play ball forever until, something like me where, I played quarterback, obviously, and then I tore my pec in my throwing shoulder, so it kind of eliminated me from playing permanently. So everyone thinks that it won't happen to them until it does, and then you're like, kind of what's my next step? Where do I find the competitiveness or the the drive to really find something what you want to do? Well, for me, I was like, I don't really know. I went to school for exercise science. I kind of wanted to coach or be a strength coach or something. And actually now I work for a building materials company. I'm an outside salesman for a building materials company here in right outside the Philadelphia area. So that's pretty much it, man. Working, playing golf when I can, and then my wife and I are just doing our thing.
Love it. And rumor has it you're just about a scratch golfer these days.
Yeah, I go off 6. I mean, I play quite a bit with work too. I mean, it's really good. I have a bunch of clients who like to play, so it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. I mean, it's kind of that next thing that keeps my competitiveness there. I work out a little bit with one of my buddies, but for the most part, I don't really have anything else to do that really drives me, kind of like football did. And you guys can both attest to this. It never really goes away. Your competitiveness never goes away. So it's good to have something that you can kind of focus that to.
Yeah, and me and Fran, we got into, Fran got me into long distance running recently, and just, you need something that replaces that void of getting out there and grinding every day, right, with the guys like you used to on it. And plus, my wife says this all the time, men are brilliant because they're the only people that can come up with a leisure activity that takes 4 to 6 hours on a day to do. She's like, what can I do that takes 4 to 6 hours and go? There's nothing. Well, she could play golf, but she doesn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
So my fiance always says, she goes, I need hobbies like you have. I'm like, you just need things to keep you busier is all. So shopping is not a good 6-hour activity because then you spend all your money. You need something that costs you nothing or costs you $50.
Well, easy there. Golf does not cost you nothing.
Yeah, but playing it, all it costs you is basically a day fee.
Yep.
$60, $75, whatever. You obviously have to pay a lot to start or to stay involved in it. But, like you said, Fran, it's not like you are going and spending $500 shopping all day. My wife is kind of the same way too. She wanted to get into plants and stuff. So we went to this place that's down the street and bought her a bunch of plants. And I'm like, all right, you going to take care of them? You going to make sure they don't die? Yeah, I'm going to do it. They all died in 2 weeks. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I have my thing, but I don't just throw my clubs out when I finish playing on one day and I buy all new clubs,
Yep.
So it is one of those things. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, all good. So let's dive into the football stuff a little bit before we get to some of your best money moves, worst money moves along the way. So take us back to Liberty a little bit, right? So redshirt your freshman year, coming out of Virginia high school. What was your expectations when you went down to Lynchburg and started playing for Liberty?
Well, I knew we had, so I obviously committed there towards the end of my junior year before my senior year of football started, and I knew we had Mike Brown at the time. And this is no knock on anyone that was behind him, but the way my mindset was all right, I'll get in there, I'll redshirt Mike's last year, and then after Mike leaves, no one else has playing experience outside of him, really. So, Tyler Brandon played a little bit, and Brian Hudson played a little bit too, like, in relief areas, but for the most part, they didn't have a lot of playing experience. So I really kind of looked at it as like a level playing field. If I can go in there and prove that I'm the better player as a redshirt freshman versus a redshirt junior, a redshirt senior, why wouldn't they play me? Then they'd be able to play me for 4 straight years. So, with Rocco, obviously it was a great, I love that staff and everything, but they left at the end of my redshirting year in December. So I was like, man, do I leave? Do I follow them? Do I transfer somewhere else that I was recruited in high school? But then Turner Gill and his staff got there, and we were a match made in heaven. Quarterback coach Joe Daly was a rock star. Absolutely loved him. He was at my wedding. Awesome guy. Our offensive coordinator was great, Aaron Stam, and then Turner was probably one of the best humans I've ever met in my entire life. And they gave me a legitimate chance to compete. And going into the season, Brian and I were kind of like 1A, 1B. We played the first couple games, split roles and everything, and then he ended up hurting his shoulder in the second game, I think. And then my third game was Montana, and after that, I threw for like 340 yards that game, and we got beat pretty good, but we played them real tough, and I had a pretty good game, and then it was kind of a wrap after that. I started for 4 years, and yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, Liberty is awesome. It's absolutely a great school, great program. They got everything going in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, how do you think they're going to handle the Conference USA, this year with the full schedule?
To be completely honest, I don't know anyone there anymore.
Yeah.
I haven't been down there in quite some time just because, I live up, we live up here in Philly. I mean, it's not close. I work all the time. My wife is working full time. We have a house, 2 dogs. I mean, it's just one of those things. I'd really love to spend more time down there, but it's just life right now in your late 20s, early 30s is just completely in the way. So I think they've got the right person in charge, Jamie Chadwell. He was actually the head coach at Charleston Southern when I was there, and he's a great coach. I really enjoyed playing against him. We had a bunch of really good close games against each other. He obviously did some great things at Coastal Carolina. So I'm excited for kind of what he's going to bring to Liberty for sure.
Yeah, the schedule, it's great that they're in a better conference, but man, the schedule is just a little weak compared to looking back when they were playing Virginia Tech, then followed by NC State, then going down to Arkansas. There's all these awesome games that were really rolling up. And when I was there, we didn't play those type of teams, but we played Wake Forest, right? We played some really good MAC schools, and you was get hyped for those games. Now listen, they're still going to try to win the conference championship, right? Yeah. Which would be great, but it'll be interesting to see how things play out with the schedule.
Well, it might actually not be. We used to always rag Coastal Carolina when I was there because they would play these weak out of conference teams, and we would play Montana, Kent State, Wake Forest, UNC. Bryant when they were number 20 in the country, Richmond. I mean, we played all these big time out of conference games. So there really wasn't much of room for error. If we didn't play good in those games and we went over in those 3 or 4 games out of conference, we pretty much had to go undefeated in the conference. Whereas no offense to them, I think they did it. It was a very good idea because they scheduled a very weak out of conference schedule. So then if they dropped 1 or 2 games in conference, they were still 10-2.
Yeah.
And they were still going to make the playoffs. You know what I mean? Whereas us, I think we went 8-4 my sophomore year, and we beat a bunch of good teams, but we lost 4 games. And so it was are we going to get one of the play-in spots? We ended up not getting it, obviously, but I can only imagine if we had 2 games that were, I don't want to say cupcake games, but easier out of conference games that we, would have handled pretty good. We'd have been 10-2.
Easy, yeah.
We'd have been second in the conference. We definitely would have been going to the playoffs. So I don't know. I think it's games, right? It's everyone tries to schedule things accordingly. You always want to challenge, but in FCS football, back when I was there, we had 24 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah.
You don't have to go undefeated. Nowadays in the college football playoff, you basically got to go undefeated or only lose 1 game if you want to get in, and it better not be at the end of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to lose the right time.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think, like I said, I think Chadwell's got him going in the right direction, and hopefully they'll have some good things going this year.
Love it, man. So let's fast forward. You have a stellar career at Liberty, and you're one of only two FCS quarterbacks to get invited to the Combine, you and Carson Wentz, right? So what was the Combine experience like for you? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think prior to you, Rashad Jennings, who I played with, was the only other guy to get invited to the Combine out of Liberty, from my recollection. So what was that experience like?
Yeah, I would say maybe the only other person that would have gotten invited to it was Walt Aikens, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know if he got invited to the Combine though, because I know he participated at our pro day, like full go, sprinting, jumping, and all that stuff. So I don't know if he ended up going to it. He would have been the only other one that I could have possibly seen as being invited. But no, the Combine was a great experience. I mean, that was one of my goals, was to get invited, because usually they take like the top, for quarterbacks, they take like the top 18 quarterbacks per se, that are, draft eligible, and they go to the Combine. And for me, I hadn't gotten invited yet, and my agent was like, yeah, I think you're definitely going to get invited, like this, and that. And when I got the call, I was actually training down in Mississippi, and the guy who invited me, he kind of approached it in like a weird way. He's like, yeah, we want to invite you in the Combine, but we want you to be one of the throwing quarterbacks. And a lot of people don't really know kind of what that is, but every year they have 3 quarterbacks that throw to every skilled position. Because obviously they don't want to have coaches out there like winging it to, the tight ends or the running backs. Like, they want to have people that can actually throw the football, so that they're getting some good work and can get some good evaluation out of these other skilled positions. So I was kind of like, at first I was like, man, that kind of stinks. But then my agent was like, well, the good news is that you'll have a lot more of opportunity to throw in front of these scouts, you being from a smaller school. So at that point, the wheels kind of turned for me, and I was like, hell yeah, dude. This will be sweet. I'll get to throw for 3 straight days or 4 straight days. It's a lot of throws, but it's also a lot of opportunities to showcase it. Yep. So that was really, really cool. I don't know if you had any more specific questions. I mean, I can talk about it a lot.
Go ahead, man.
But so it's pretty neat. I mean, you go there, and the first day. So it's usually like 5 days. You get there and you do like medical and check-in and all that stuff for 2 days. You go get x-rays and all that kind of stuff. And they go over like past injuries. And the second day, I believe, is what's known as the doctor day that you're there. And basically you go to like these 5 different rooms where you're in your shirt and your athletic shorts, and you're on the table, and there's like 5 doctors standing all around the table, and they're just like pulling on your arms and like wrenching on your elbows and your knees and stuff. They basically see if you're going to like fall apart when you're pulling on them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, if you ever hear about players that like just had surgery, they like don't go to the medical days, because they don't want to be, if they're 6 months out, they don't want someone like jerking on their knee, because, God forbid something happens, they get a setback. But that day was like really weird, because like I said, you're laying on this table, and you do that for like 5 or 6 doctors, and you go to another room and you do the exact same thing, because each team has like their own doctor there. So that's a long day. And then like every night you have these meetings at this thing called the train station, which the facility, and I don't know if they still do it in Indianapolis?
I think it's almost every year there.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they still did it there or not. I know they were talking about like possibly doing it somewhere else, but one of the reasons why they do it is because they have this big hotel that they connect with like an over the street tunnel bridge to the facility. So the hotel and the football stadium ended up connecting like over the street. So you actually don't have to go outside like ever throughout this whole process. So every night we'd have meetings, and you have your, I think I was number 18 at the Combine, QB 18. So you had QB 18 right here on your chest, and you had these guys that were walking around with clipboards. And they're like, oh, QB1, I need to talk to you. I'm with the Seahawks. I come with me to QB2. Okay. So they don't actually like know who you are. They're just kind of like, they're just runners. They're just associating you with a number. But every team, all 32 teams have, a little table. And you go there and you talk ball and talk shop and, what do you do? Where are you from? Blah, 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 blah. They ask you funny questions. But it was just kind of like a meet and greet time. But you'd also get some chalk talk where you're talking plays. Hey, what do you like against cover 3? What do you like against cover 4? All this type of stuff. So that, luckily, since I was one of the throwing quarterbacks, I got to kind of knock all that stuff out at the beginning, because I was there for 5 days, and normally you're only there for 3. So I got all that stuff kind of knocked out at the first 2 days. There's like psych evals and all that stuff. And then I got to pretty much chill for like the last 3 days, because all I was doing was I'd wake up in the morning, I'd go and eat, I'd go hang out in the lounge, and then I'd go and throw to the position group. And I think ours was quarterbacks and receivers was like the second day, maybe second or third day out of 5. So it was cool, man. I mean, it was a really good experience. I mean, every brand had like a lounge per se. So like Under Armour had a suite, Nike had a suite, Adidas had a suite. They're all giving you free stuff. I mean, the amount of stuff I came home with was just insane. Like I had a huge duffel bag. And to me, you know, a guy that didn't sign any contracts as far as like merchandise deals or like, you know, with Nike or sponsorships or anything, I was like, give it to me. Can I have 2? Can I have 2 of everything? So
a little different experience than Liberty too, right? With the equipment gear they gave out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it is what it is, right? Like we were an FCS school at the time when I was there, so we weren't just like giving stuff out. They're like, hey, you need new cleats, you got to give me your old cleats. It's like, hey, I got to give you my old cleats to get new cleats. Like, what are we doing, guys? You know, and like I get it. You know, they don't want to just give somebody 5 pairs of cleats because at some point they have a budget. But right now, they're probably a little less restrictive on what they give. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it was the exact opposite when I was in college. I mean, we got 2 outfits a year basically. You know, we had to make a blast, and if we didn't, like I said, we had to trade our old stuff in to get new stuff.
Love it. So going through that whole combine experience, then it was a positive one for you. You throw for 5 days. How are you feeling coming out of that with interacting with the teams and the coaches and the scouts and, you know, just sizing up the other quarterbacks that you were competing against?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's pretty funny being one of the throwing quarterbacks. So we had 2 other guys. The other guy was Vernon Adams, who I don't know if you guys remember. He played at Eastern Washington and then transferred to Oregon. Yeah, I think he's in the CFL now. I think he's been in the CFL for a little bit, but he was a hell of a college football player. Obviously didn't work out for him in the NFL, but him and then this other guy that I can't remember. He was a quarterback that played at Wisconsin. I can't remember what his name was. But so it was us 3, and Vernon Adams ended up having back cramps the 3rd day, the day after the quarterbacks and receivers conveniently finished. So then me and the other guy from Wisconsin we were down to 2. So I'm like, man, we still got the DBs, we still got the linebackers, and we still have the tight ends. Like I still have 3 more groups to throw. So after the next day, the other guy ended up like he hurt his calf or something. And so I was the only quarterback throwing for the last 2 days. I remember the DBs is rough. Like you're throwing go routes and you're throwing like deep corners and stuff. Like it's not just throwing like hitch routes to them and they're like doing pick sixes. Like they're deep balls so they can kind of see their ball skills. And I remember it was the last day and I kind of like underthrew like a corner post and the DB kind of like had to come back and grab it and he dropped it or whatever. And the DB coach was like, yo, come on, can't you throw it that far? And I'm like, I'm the only quarterback here for the past 2 days and I've been throwing for 5 straight days, probably 200 balls a day. Like, can you cut me a fucking break? Like, you know what I mean? Like, cut me some slack, dude. Like my arm is like it's basically falling off my shoulder right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, after the combine though, you know, I felt really good. You know, my agent actually had me as talking to a couple of different teams as a 3rd round grade. So with that being said, I'm feeling pretty good going into pro day, going into the draft type thing. You know what I mean? So I didn't feel like I was out of place or anything. I thought that. You know, I definitely thought going in that, you know, I'm going to be like 2nd, 3rd, 4th round draft pick. Like I'm feeling pretty good. I think I crushed the interviews. Physically, I did really good on all the tests. I mean, I think it was nothing but positive for me for sure.
Yeah. So we get to draft day, you killed it the pro day 2. Draft day comes, 2nd round, nothing, 3rd round, 4th round. Like what's your agent saying to you? How you feeling at that point? And you know, how did the cards end?
I mean, honestly, I was pissed, you know, because I'm seeing these other guys that were drafted to me, and this is no knock on them, but I think every competitor feels like this, that like when you size someone up in person and you're throwing better than them, you have better stats than them, you're doing this and this than them. It's like, dude, what are you seeing from this guy that you're not seeing from me? You know, like where in the whole event did the cog get messed up? You know, and like I said, my agent's like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like, and I had a couple teams call me like day of saying, man, I hope your dreams come true today and all that stuff. And it's like, you know, it was upsetting. I'm not gonna lie. Like my draft party, I thought for sure, like I said, for sure getting drafted. And then, then I ended up signing with the Giants. I think they called me in like the 7th round or something like that, and they're like, we don't have more picks, but we want to sign you like basically right now, so that you don't go, no one gets you after the draft. And at that point I was like, hell yeah,
Just give me something.
like
Right.
something's better than nothing. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And I could imagine how frustrating that must watching guy after guy go that you're probably better than just to get an opportunity to get in the.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys probably know, you're dealing with enough NFL players and enough professional athletes. Like, guaranteed money is everything in the NFL.
Everything.
If you don't have guaranteed money, like, good luck. Absolutely good luck to you. And in that situation, when you're drafted, you get a guaranteed signing bonus. So, and when you're not, you don't. So you could very easily get cut the day after. So being drafted is a huge, huge sticking point for people. Plus, I really feel like subconsciously, like when so let's say like my second year or something, right? If I go to a workout and they're like, oh, who was he drafted by? And they're like, oh, he was undrafted. There is like a little shtick that comes with being like, why wasn't he drafted? What held him back? Versus just like for some reason it didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you see that all the time. Like guys that were drafted, 1 or 2 overall. No matter how much they stink, it's like someone's going to keep giving him a chance. It's like, oh, well, he was number 1 or number 2 overall. Whatever. Whereas
he's got to at some point he's got to do good. You know
exactly. Yeah, there is like a weird stigma around like people remember where you were drafted, and it kind of like follows you your entire career. It's weird how it works that way. No matter what you do. Yep. Positive or negative.
So speaking of guaranteed money, right? So the Giants sign you, right? Look this up ahead of time. 3-year contract, $1.62 million for that. It's got to feel phenomenal, right? Signing that contract, right? We'll get to what happened maybe a couple days later, right? But what was
48
that?
hours later.
Yeah, right. So you sign a $1.62 million contract for 3 years, and then 3 days later they waive you, right?
Yeah.
Talk about demoralizing.
Dude, I mean, you talk about like getting to the point where it's like, should I be playing college football or should I be playing in the NFL? I mean, it really was like, so they signed me for like a $20,000 signing bonus, and it wasn't like a per se signing bonus. It was like guaranteed. So it was $20,000 guaranteed. So I'm like, okay, they got to keep me. They're not just going to throw $20,000 out. You know what I mean? And so I went up there for rookie minicamp, and I crushed rookie minicamp, like absolutely crushed. And I'm actually sitting in my locker next to B.J. Goodson, who I'm not sure who he plays for now. He's a linebacker from Clemson. And I want to say he plays for like the Browns maybe now. But he was like their second or third round pick that year. And so I'm sitting next to him like, hey, man, we made it through rookie minicamp. Like this was tough, but like we did it. Now we can like get on to OTAs and everything. I'm not even kidding. 5 seconds later, dude walks up to me. Hey, Coach McAdoo wants to see you in his office. He's like, make sure you bring your playbook. And I'm like,
shit.
Yeah, BJ looked at me and he was like, I'm like, put my foot in my mouth there. So I went up there and, he's like, hey, so, I thought you had a really good mini camp, but we're going to end up going in a different direction. And we had another quarterback there, BJ Daniels, who they ended up waiving me, signing him, and then like lo and behold, I found out a couple weeks later they cut him and signed Logan Thomas, who Logan's actually one of my really good friends. We played against each other in high school and trained together in the off season. And anyway, we can kind of get to him later. But I was like, okay, like I'm not really sure like what, like why, like what did I do wrong? And he's like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. We just want to go in a different direction. And I didn't know at that point because that was my first experience getting cut. But it was just like, I was like shocked. I had no other way to describe it as just being in complete shock. Like I had no reaction. I was like, dude, this was the plan. Now we're deviating right at like not even 72 hours later after getting here. And yeah, man, it was bad. Yeah. It was like mentally, it was extremely tough. I mean, I remember sitting so I got my stuff together, whatever, shook hands and all that stuff. Got my stuff together and got to the airport, and I'm sitting in the airport, like with my phone, like dreading calling my parents and letting them know like that I just got, like what's going to happen now? Like this was the plan. Now it's not anymore. Like, should I be playing in the NFL? Like it's super, that's the worst part about the league for sure is the mental part of it. 100%.
Because your whole athletic career, junior high, high school, college, you're definitely on the team. You're probably one of the top players. Maybe you're not the guy yet, but you're working towards that. And there's a clear path that you've always experienced getting there. And then especially falling maybe a little short of not getting drafted like you thought to after the combine, and then in short order getting cut right after. That's like one kick in the nuts after the next.
Dude, I've never played a sport and not been a starter ever. Besides my redshirt year, which was like, you're gonna redshirt this dude, Mike Brown, like he's our starter.
Yeah,
which I was like, okay,
player
cool.
of the year. Like,
yeah, I was like, all right,
sense.
I was like, that's cool. Like, I get a year to get bigger, faster, stronger, better, smarter, whatever. Like, I bought into that. You know what I mean? But every other year, I was a starter. I mean, there's never been a year that I haven't started anything. And just the way that, like you said, it was just another kick in the balls repetitively, time after time after time. And it's like, dude.
Yeah, we hear these stories too. It's got to be so infuriating when there's never like a real rationale. It's not like, hey, we think this guy's better than you. It's like, we think we're going to go in another direction. Why? What's the, like they can never, they're not like actually telling you like why they're doing these things. It's like, you ever watch like Hard Knocks, you always see that and you just see it. You're just like, I feel terrible for these guys. Like they're not even getting like told. It's just like you said, it's just got to be heartbreaking to be like, where do I go from here?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like I have nothing to lose by talking bad about the NFL. Like they're a bunch of scumbags, man. Like they won't just be honest. Like they won't just be honest with players, and unfortunately, that's the worst part of it is that they couldn't just tell me, hey, you're not good enough to be on this team, so we think this other player is. All right, cool. Hopefully, it works out with another team. But like there are multiple times, like a story I have of when I was with the Bills. It's kind of the same thing. Like they signed me. I'm like the third quarterback at the time. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna be. I'm definitely going to be on the team this off season and everything, blah, blah, blah. Then they signed TJ Yates, who used to play at North Carolina. So I'm like, okay, we have 4 quarterbacks now. Like I'm good. They're not going to draft somebody. I went through the whole off season with them, blah, blah, blah. They drafted Nathan Peterman. And I'm like, guys, what the hell? Like, what are we doing? Like, what are you doing? You drafted him in the 5th round too? We see how well that turned out. But like, it's just like I remember my quarterback coach when they like let me go. He like wanted to talk to me, and I'm like, so what? So why did you guys like? Why am I leaving? And because this was my second year, so I was kind of like, I might as well ask him like why they're cutting me this time, And he's like, well, you didn't do anything wrong. Like it was just this is just the way we're going. I'm like, then if I didn't do anything wrong and I'm doing so good in the offseason, why are you cutting me? Yeah. Like you don't have anything invested in me. You have no guaranteed money, so there's really like no risk. Whereas now you have a 5th round pick that you're going to give a signing bonus to, and you hope it pans out. Like it's stuff like that, man. It's like I said, none of them could ever be honest with me, and that's the thing where it's like I would have had so much more respect for the NFL as a whole if at some point people would just be honest with you. It actually makes me more mad when they lie to my face, like No
doubt. Well, then it seemed like after the Bills, the Ravens picked you up. Right, and it seemed like you made it through mini camps, you made it through OTAs, hitting the preseason now, and that was really your first time you felt like you were probably getting some real traction compared to the Colts, the Bears, the Bills, right?
Yeah, well, the Bills. So I was with the Bills. So following my rookie year, so I got released by the Giants and picked up by the Colts like the next day, 24 hours maybe, and I was with them through OTAs. So basically spring ball. And then I got cut like a day before preseason started my rookie year. Tight end got hurt. Pagano called me. I had literally just finished working out. And I'm like, hey, coach, what's going on? He's like, yeah, we're going to have to cut you. The tight end got hurt. We need your spot. I'm like, how's that my problem? You know what I mean? Like, how's that my problem that your guy got hurt and now I'm getting cut, And so I didn't even go to preseason my rookie year. Because at that point, I mean, this is the day before we were returning to Indianapolis. So all roster spots are full. There's no team that needs an extra quarterback because they all got 3 to 4 quarterbacks at the time. So I'm sitting there like, guess I'm not going to preseason. Guess I'm going to watch preseason from my home. And so I ended up helping out with my high school that year. And basically every Monday I was flying out to a different team, working out. I'd look at the roster. Oh, they have 2 on the active, 1 on the practice squad. Probably not going to sign me. I'd just be going out there throwing for like receivers that they were looking at. Finally, I got a workout where it was just me and another quarterback with the Bears in November, my rookie year. And they only had 2 quarterbacks at the time, so I was like, one of us is getting signed, and I'll tell you who it's gonna be. So I ended up getting signed, and the guy who I quote unquote beat out was a guy named Dustin Vaughn. I can't remember where he played college. I want to say it was like Northwestern Tech or something like that. I think it was a Division II school. But he was a nice guy and everything. But like at that point, it was like my job or his job, and it's not going to be my job type thing. You know what I mean? So I was with them for a little bit, and then that's how I got to the Bills at the end of the season. They signed me for a futures contract, so I was with them all off season, and then I actually got cut. I want to say it was like the 5th OTA of Buffalo. So at that time, there were only 5 practices left in the spring ball because you only have 10 OTAs. So I didn't get picked up by the Ravens until I want to say it was like, so you usually have like 2 weeks of practice before your first preseason game, and I want to say I got picked up like the start of the second week before the first game. And so I only had like 3 or 4 practices with him at the time. And the quarterback, so Flacco was actually the starter, but he was out with a back injury for preseason. Ryan Mallett was the backup, so he was acting as like the starter. And then guess who the third string quarterback on the Ravens was?
At that time, was that RG3?
Dustin Vaughn.
Dustin Vaughn.
Oh,
no
shit.
way.
The guy from Chicago.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, here we go again, you know? So
Did it once, could do it again.
well, exactly. You know, that was kind of like, unfortunately, that was like my mindset. I was like, I beat you out once, dude. It's only a matter of time before I beat you out again. And it's no offense to him. He's a nice guy, but like
He's got a dartboard with your face
yeah,
on.
I mean, seriously, like, so in the first preseason game happened. So I was coming in third, you know, relief, whatever. I was only there for a week. Dustin had been there all off season and then into the preseason. And Ryan Mallett played like 1 or 2 series, and then Dustin got in there, and 2 series in a row, he took like 2 sacks back to back. And so Harbaugh was like, get him out of there, put the new guy in. So I go in. This is like
Who's the new guy? I don't know who he is,
Yeah.
but put him in.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this is like the start of the third quarter. Like there's plenty. It was either the start of the third quarter or like halfway through the second quarter. Like there was plenty of game left, and I handed one play. I handed a ball off, and they handed another one off. We got a first down, and then they call 62 or 2-jet double dancer, so all goes. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude. First pass play is a go route. Like, I'm just going to go opposite the safety. Like, it's going to be awesome. 42-yard touchdown pass. First
Love
play.
it.
And then, I mean, because I hadn't played in preseason yet because I didn't go with the Colts because they cut me. And first pass, his name was Tim White, receiver we had. And I kind of like threw it up. I kind of like back shoulder to the pylon. He caught it right on the pylon, touchdown. And
That's
then
awesome.
at that point, I played like all through preseason a ton.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when you and I got connected. Was, you know, I was making money in the NFL and needed something to do with it. You know, needed to put it away. So that's how, you know, it's funny, man. It only takes like 1 or 2 plays to stick somewhere.
Well,
And
at that point, though, it was like 18 months since you really saw game action, which was like from at Liberty, right? Because for first rookie
Yeah.
season, didn't do anything, and 2 off seasons, it was a minute.
Yeah, it was 2. So it would have been like the fall of 15 when I finished, and then this was like the end of summer 2017. So it was almost 18 months probably. I mean, close to 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, right? I mean, you lit it up that preseason. Got like, you know, your stat line here, but you were like 25 for 36 for 321 passing, 4 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
In the preseason, balled out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of, so they let a lot of people play in preseason. You know, I wasn't, it's not like I was playing the whole game every game. You know, I was playing maybe a quarter a game. So if you put 4 games together, and that's a pretty good
really
game.
good. Yeah.
Really, you know?
Pretty much comes out to like 1 full game almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, that's pretty much how it ends up playing, because as you go, like the first game, starter doesn't really play normally, maybe a series, maybe a couple plays, hand the ball off, throw a hitch, get out of there. Second game, they play a little more, maybe like 2 series. Third game, they play like a whole quarter. And then the fourth game, they don't play at all. The guys who are probably not going to make the team play like a lot of the game. And at that point, it was like almost guaranteed, because I had lit it up for 3 games in a row. It was almost guaranteed that I was going to be on the team, whether they cut me and put me on practice squad or whether they were going to keep me on the active roster. Like I was 99% sure I was going to be on the team. And I think I played like 2 series down there in New Orleans. We played the Saints that year. So, it probably ended up being close to a full game of plays for sure.
Love it. And so then just kind of walk us through the rest of that process with the Ravens.
So I was with them this was crazy. So I played, you just read my stat line. Like I played lights out. Like I didn't have a turnover. I had 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing, had a bunch of crazy plays. We won all 4 games that I was like contributing to. And, at the end, when it like came to cuts, I'm like, man, there's no way they're cutting me. Like, there's no way, right? Everything else is gone downhill from here, but there's no way this is gonna happen too. So I met with our offensive coordinator, whose name was Marty Morningwig at the time, and he was like, hey, so I just want to let you know, we've done our research, this, and that. Like, we're going to cut you, but we are bringing you back on practice squad. And I was like, someone's going to claim me, dude. I'm like, I'm not, like, I told him, I'm like, I think that's a mistake because I think I played good enough for someone else to pick me up. And you're not going to be able to do anything about it at that point. You know what I mean? So, because there's a waiver wire period. I don't know how familiar you guys are, but they have to get down to 52 people on the team, or 53. And there's a 24-hour waiver wire period where anyone can pick your contract up right away. You're on their active roster. And it goes in the order of the draft from the previous year. So like that year, I think the Browns were the number 1 pick. So that's how the Browns claimed me. So they cut me. Browns picked me up right away. And I was like, I came in the next, so I was just waiting like pins and needles. I knew I was going to get cut. And didn't hear from any coach. I didn't have any calls coming in on my phone. And so I'm like, oh man, dude, maybe I slid past everyone. We're clean.
Something changed. We're good.
I know. So I came in there to like sign my contract with the Ravens, and the director of player personnel was like, I got some good news and some bad news for you. And I'm like, okay. He's like, the good news is you're going to be on the active roster. And I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
What? And he's like, the bad news is it's just not our roster. I'm like, oh my God, dude. Why are you going to do that to me? He's like, the Cleveland Browns claimed you. And the Browns are better than they were back then. I mean, this was in 2017, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like
struggling.
Back then they lost like 50 games in a row. Like nobody wanted to go to Cleveland, especially not quarterbacks, because they were just getting crushed
Rolling
there.
through 'em.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they were just going through every year. And so I'm like, oh my, Cleveland, dude, really? Like anywhere else. And so I go there, and my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but I was like, do you want to come out with me for like, we'll drive out there, come out with me for a couple of days. Like, I'm not going to know anybody. At least like you'll be with me. And so she came out there, and I think I got there Monday. Monday was an off day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practice. So my wife left Thursday morning, and the GM calls me in on Thursday. I was like, hey man, we're actually going to cut you. And I'm like,
did you even unpack your bags at that point?
Dude, I mean, I was in the hotel, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't understand the NFL at this point, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, why? And they're like, well, we really wanted you on practice squad. Like, really, we want you to be on our practice squad. And the only way for you to get here was for us to claim you. So we want to cut you and pay you active roster to stay on practice squad. And at that point, I'm like, dude, if the Ravens can pay me anywhere near that, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I knew they didn't sign a practice squad quarterback yet. I don't know why, but they hadn't yet. So first thing I did, they're like, yeah, but we want you to commit like right now to doing it. I'm like, dude, before I do that, like I needed to talk to my agent. And so I got out of the room, whatever, got my agent on the phone. I'm like, yo, dude, call Ozzy at the Ravens. If they can get anywhere close to this, like I'll have my bags packed in 20 minutes.
Drive right
like,
on back.
I'm out of here, dude. I'm out of here. Because I mean, like, I made a good rapport with the Ravens. Like I played great. Like they knew what I was about. Like it felt, you know what I mean? I was comfortable there. And so he calls Ozzy. Ozzy calls back in like 10 minutes, whatever. My agent calls back. He's like, well, they can't give you like that much, but they can give you like pretty dang close to it. And so I was like, dude, say less. Like I'm out of here. Like I'm done. I don't want to be here anyway. I'd rather be in Baltimore with a better organization, better team. We were going to be good, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, I had played good there. You know what I mean? I had kind of like I had a feeling of like that's what I'd been waiting for 2 years for something to happen, was to catch on with the team. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then I just packed my bags, got back there the next night. I don't think I signed until Monday officially. So I had like the weekend to chill with my wife and just hang out, which was fun. And then and then I was with them. I was with them all year as a third quarterback. And then everything happened like the following year with they signed RG3, they drafted Lamar. They kind of got pushed out a little bit, you know what I mean, because of draft capital and whatever. You know, it is what it is, part of the business aspect of it. But then I never got back on. I never got on with the team. I had another couple workouts that following season, so that would have been 2018. You know, kind of same thing. I played a lot in preseason, did kind of, you know, end of the game type stuff. And because obviously Lamar was going to play like a lot in the preseason.
Yep.
And then at the end of the year, they cut me, had a bunch of workouts, didn't get on with the team. And then my agent was like, dude, you should play in this Alliance of American Football League. And I was like, I mean, I got to find a way to get back in the NFL.
Will they pay,
you know what I mean?
and can I play?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they paid us pretty good. I think we got like almost $5,000 a game or something like that. We ended up playing like 8 games. So after taxes, I made like almost $40,000 that year. You know what I mean? It's better than going and working at CVS or Target or something. You know what I mean? Like I was still playing, I was still getting film and everything.
Getting tape. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was the starter for the Salt Lake City team. So it was. I mean, we had a pretty good team, and that league had some like weird rules with defenses and stuff. But it was just another way to stay active and stay playing. And then when that league folded, I went back home and I was home for like a week, and then the Redskins called me and they're like, we want to sign you, blah, blah, blah. And then I was with them for all the offseason, played in the first preseason game, and then that's when I tore my pec. So that was kind of
that was all she wrote after,
you know what I mean?
Quarterback tear, just throwing arms back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So how was that transition then? I mean, you had a wild story. I know we've talked about it, you know, before, of just the ups and the downs and everything else. But, you know, we talk about money a lot on this podcast and our things. Like, how was that whole process with signing non-guaranteed contracts, getting paid weekly, $5,000 a week in the AAF versus, you know, the $20,000 bonus and like weekly pay here or there? Like, how was managing all of that process, you know, for you on a daily basis?
Well, you know, honestly, I'm very like fortunate and blessed in the fact that my wife is 4 years younger than me. So when I was throughout my entire journey in the NFL, she was still finishing school. So I never had to like, all right, are we going to move? Are we going to buy our house? Are we going to get an apartment? Because like if we were married at the time and this was happening, we would have to go and get, you know, rent a month-to-month lease somewhere. Whereas every time I got cut, all these times, I just went back to my parents' house. And I had a room there, and my trainer back in Roanoke, Virginia, like we would work out together and throw together and all that stuff. You know, like it ended up working out like timing-wise, like perfectly. Because when I got injured and I was doing rehab, that was the year my wife graduated. So when I finished rehab and couldn't end up coming back and playing, that's when COVID happened. We moved up here to Philly. So it ended up, like I said, I didn't really have to worry about managing it too much other than just save as much as I could, possibly. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I guess to get back into the whole guaranteed thing, I mean, you're only paid for, you know, now 18 weeks. It used to only be 17 weeks because you had 16 games and 1 bye week. And, you know, you hear these stories about guys where they live the lifestyle of making $15,000 a year or $15,000 a week throughout the entire year. Well, you're only getting that for about a third of the year. You know what I mean? So you really have to almost break it down into live off a third of that if you want to just basically break even throughout the entire year.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of guys get into trouble too, is that they have a lot of money. You know, a lot of money's coming in, but you don't realize that you're only getting that for a third of the year. You really have to make that last for 52 weeks. So for me, I've always been like, I wouldn't say frugal, but I've always been very money conscious of, like, one of my worst fears is like going broke and having no money. Like I'm like absolutely terrified of that happening. You know what I mean? So it was easy for me to, you know, let's say I got a $12,000 check. It was really easy for me to take 10,000 of that and put it in my savings account and literally like see if I could save this much. You know what I mean? And then say, hey, I only have this $2,000 or this $1,500, and that's going to cover my rent, my food, and if I want to do fun stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I've always been like very money conscious anyway. So it really wasn't for me, like getting, you know, coming from making no money, from making $1,100 a month in college with your stipend to like making what I made in the NFL. it didn't change like my mindset or anything. I was always like trying to save, trying to, prepare for the future anyway.
Totally. So what about worst money move, right? Worst money move you've made during the NFL career or after, or maybe that you just saw in the locker room?
I gotta be honest. I really don't feel like I've made many bad money moves.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the worst money move I made was I bought a little Audi A4 the end of my first year in the league, and it just cost me like, I bought it for like $9,000 and it cost me like $5,000 to fix up the first year, and I was like, all right, I'm getting rid of that thing. Yeah. I'm not going to keep doing that. So like I said, I haven't really made many bad money moves as far as that. I mean, I've invested. I mean, I got hooked up with you as soon as I had enough money to do anything with, and wanted to put it away and invest. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Probably playing golf is probably the worst money move I've made.
no good return on investment for that, but good mental clarity.
I mean, it's my thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's my hobby. You have to have a hobby, and I think sometimes, like, my wife struggles. I mean, like anybody, I think if you don't have something if all you have is work or all you have is home life, like, at some point you need something to focus your energy to. And if you don't have that, you're kind of like swimming in fog. You know what I mean? You need to have some type of, everyone needs goals. Like, my wife and I are very goal driven, goal oriented. And when we don't have those, it can be a little monotonous sometimes if you don't have like stuff to work towards. You know what I mean? And she was a soccer player in college. So like, she's the same way. Like, like I said, if she doesn't have goals, she sometimes like doesn't really know what to do, you know?
Now, when you were like around the locker rooms, among all the different teams, did you ever see anything that you're like, oh, I don't know about that? Like like a younger guy buying a flashy car, the watches, the jewelry, like, was that stuff like super prevalent everywhere?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, jewelry is like the biggest waste of money ever. The biggest waste of money.
Yeah.
I mean, Dwayne Haskins, obviously he's rest in peace and everything, but like, he came in with like a $300,000 watch on into preseason. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you? I can't remember what kind of watch it was, but Alex Smith, who was like in our meeting, he's like, yo, dude, that's like a $250,000 watch. And Dwayne was like, yeah. And I'm like, dude, why? Why? For what reason other than to just show people that you have a nice watch on your hand? You know what I mean? It's not like can't do anything for you other than tell the time. You know, and my phone does that. Yep. You know what I mean? Is that really why you have a $250,000 watch? Like, but my thing is, if you're a person that has expendable income like that, feel free. But if you're a guy who is, you're on a $400,000 contract or $500,000 contract, like, you better not be wasting your money on freaking jewelry, dude. You better put it away until you can't play anymore. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, especially for some of these guys, like for them, like, a lot of these guys don't have a plan after football. A lot of these guys, they're not thinking about like, okay, hey, on the off chance I don't make it in the next, 3 to 5 years, what am I going to do with my life? You know what I mean? So then these guys have nothing saved, and then all of a sudden they're in trouble. And, you bought this watch, now all of a sudden you got to sell it, just to end up making ends meet. And, then you're getting yourself in a whole pinch just because, people weren't properly planning and, taking a full risk analysis on their future.
Yeah. I mean, I think the top like 12 picks in the first draft get like over $10 million or something like that. And then the rest of them are like below that. Like, it falls off. It falls off significantly after the top 10. And honestly, like, those top 10 picks, you could probably you could probably not get a second contract and probably retire if you invested and saved correctly. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But outside of those guys, like, let's say like number 32 is like $4 million before taxes. So you're going to make $2 million after taxes in 4 years. You can't retire.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Like, if you don't make it, if you don't sign a good second contract, you're not retiring. I mean, I played 4 years, and granted, I was like on, off, practice squad, injured reserve, but still, like, I couldn't retire. Like, I no way made enough money to be able to do that. If anything, I made enough money to kind of set myself up for a good future, but not anywhere close to retiring. I mean, I'll still work till I'm 55, 60, 65, whatever it is. I mean, there's not enough. You don't make enough money on a rookie deal to, like I said, unless you're a first round pick that has number 1 or number 5 that makes $30 to $20 million. Like, there's not enough money for you to retire and to live the lifestyle that you you probably will be living those first 4 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so what about best money moves, right? So as like you look back over post college now, what you're doing, what's the money move that you might be most proud of, or that you think was the best move you made?
I would say two things. One, getting a scholarship. Like, I know it's not like a direct money move, but the fact that I have no college debt. I mean, my wife still has a little bit of college debt, and we're still kind of waiting for the whole thing to shake out with whether college is debt is going to get relieved or not. But like the fact that I have no college debt is unbelievable. I mean, I don't have debt at all. Besides my wife and I owning our house, well, mortgage and whatnot, but we don't have any debt. And I can't imagine taking $700 a month, $1,000 a month, and just throwing it away into some type of like school debt. You know what I mean? I remember when I was coaching a little bit at my high school. And, players are like, yeah, I want to go play college football and I want to do this and do that. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you right now, go where you don't have to pay for school. If it's Division II, go play Division II. Don't walk on somewhere where you're probably never going to play and get a scholarship, but go somewhere where you don't have to pay for school. It sounds silly. And like some people too just like want to be on the team. And like if you just want to walk on and be on the team at Virginia Tech or wherever, like that's fine. But for me, like I wasn't going to go and play somewhere and like try and be on the team and have to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, and the other thing too, so that's like the first like money move. And the second thing I would say is just saving as much as I could. So, because now I was able to put a down payment on my house that my wife and I live in now. If I just spent all that, I mean, I saved a lot from the NFL. I won't get into specifics, obviously, but I saved a lot to where I could put a down payment on the house, and we don't have to pay PMI.
Yeah.
And so many people get stuck in that where I didn't save enough to where I could do this, and I can't imagine not having that to where I'd be paying $400,000, $600,000 a month just in PMI until I got to 20%. It saved us a ton, and granted, it took a lot from the investment that we did, but it was an investment at the time.
Yep, no doubt. Cool, man. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Last question here, and I'll let you get on your way. If you had to go back and tell yourself, your younger self, one piece of advice, right, to improve your money situation, or a guy that is coming out, joining the NFL and making transitions, what would that one piece of money advice be to that person?
I do think that so many people get like caught up in the league with like your surroundings. Like a lot of guys play keeping up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? And for me personally, like I resisted that big time because the guys that I was in the room with, Joe Flacco, Ryan Mallett, I mean, these dudes had millions of dollars. You know what I mean? And if I was trying to keep up with them, dude, I was going to be broke before it even started. So I think people get into keeping up with the Jones and like, oh man, I'm in the NFL, I have to live like a certain lifestyle, when like really I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in college, and it was in the NFL, and it was, I tried to go to the cheapest place possible basically. I mean, it wasn't a hole in the wall, but like I tried to save as much money as I could because I didn't want to spend too much money on rent. Like, cause I knew probably I wasn't going to be there next year. So I didn't want to waste all the money that I had, worked hard enough. So I would definitely say like, just try and avoid keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, don't compare yourself to someone else's situation, because everyone's situation is different, and then honestly, save as much as you can. Like, I wouldn't even put a number on it. Like, oh, I want to save 50%. No, like literally save as much as you can while you're playing. Live on like the bare minimum while you're playing. Yep. So that when you retire, you have so much more than like you're going to look back and be like, man, I'm really glad I did that. Like if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have any money right now, or I wouldn't have any, all that time I invested in the NFL would have been for nothing. You know what I mean?
Awesome, man. Well, listen, great insights today. It was really fun hearing some more details about, your journey, especially through the combine and transitioning out of the league, and appreciate it. So if people want to, check you out on social, follow you online, see what you're doing now, where can they find you, and anything you want to leave us with before we wrap up?
Facebook is just, I think it's my name, and then I just have an Instagram. Instagram is, I don't even know what my name is, _J_Dubs with 2 B's and 2 S's. So... It's funny because my wife's is the same thing, but with a G instead of a J. So,
Love it. So,
yeah, that's about it, man.
Well, awesome, man. Appreciate it. Looking forward to connecting again soon, and have to have you up to the office next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.